Greetings fellow mammals, welcome back to another episode of Sorrowful Ramblings, today the Carbines. But before we get into it, I wanted to tell you about a little new setting that we have, and I actually forgot to mention it in the assault rifle episode. So, take a look at the hit markers. I'm using the revolver on purpose here to showcase this at its most extreme. As you can maybe tell, these hit markers, if you ADS, travel with the reticle, which looks absolutely absurd on the revolver. And they added this behavior, I think 2 or 3 patches ago, I'm not quite sure. Before they just stayed in the center of the screen, but now they travel with the reticle. Thankfully, we can now turn that off in the settings, which, by the way, used to... Oh, now it works. Oh, that's interesting. It didn't work before. Okay, now it works. I couldn't enter the settings before from the shooting range, but I guess that's fixed now. Anyway, so you go into the HUD settings, scroll a bit down, and we had the infantry crosshair projection. This is old, this should be off too. But now we also have the infantry hit indicator projection. And I turned this on to showcase it, of course, but now I'm going to turn this off again. And then they stay in the center of the screen, and you can even use them to aim. Especially on a gun like this, where the weapon model covers the center of the screen during the recoil, you can kind of use the slowly vanishing hit markers to stay on target, which is really helpful. But enough of that, and now let's finally talk about the carbines. Few words of caution. I have definitely noticed that with the new gunplay, this entire category kind of doesn't really fit my playstyle anymore. It's not bad or anything, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying the assault rifles are more what I need for how I play. And therefore I had a much more difficult time with the carbines. But in the end I figured something out for all of them, of course, and it works. It's just that I personally would prefer using an assault rifle. I guess if this game had a closed weapons system, this entire class would make more sense, but it doesn't, so yeah. And we're gonna start this off with the M4A1, which is actually the one I had the most issues with. As you know, this is a high rate of fire, ultra close range chainsaw type of weapon. My issue is that with the limp modifiers and the somewhat iffy recoil, it's not really hard to control. It's just kind of, yeah, you could see it there. It's sometimes it just does these little horizontal jumps, and it's a bit annoying. So I had a bit of trouble with my old setup, which was, I think I deleted it. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Which was full accuracy, so light barrel, violet laser, and I think alloy vertical and some other stuff. That didn't really work. And also because of the damage and limp modifiers at ranges like even this target. If you hit just 2 or 3 hits, not center mass, it feels like shit. Let's be honest. It feels horrible. It takes ages. You cannot full auto at this range, as you can see. So you have to tap fire, and even then, if you hit the limp hits, it just takes too long, and you lose against ARs. So the first thing I had to do, which I didn't have to do before, you kind of have to accept that this weapon is like 35 meters max. You can engage this target, but I would recommend using cover to get closer into more of like this range, and then you can actually make use of the power of this thing. And the other thing that comes along with that is leaning more into hipfire, which, as you know, my channel is not really my thing. But over the course of these few days trying the carbines, I have grown a lot more accustomed to it, and I do enjoy it quite a lot on the carbines because it simply works. This obviously means that you use these weapons in the fitting scenarios. So I'm not talking about the C flag on Merak Valley or Operation Firestorm on E. I'm talking about Cairo, Iberian, the center of Merak Valley in the big buildings, or eastward on C or E even, or A. You know the points maybe, on Conquest especially. So you have to kind of know what you're holding and how it works, which should be obvious to be honest, but just keep it in mind. So what do we have here? Well, before I talk about the end result, let's actually talk about something that one of my Discord members put up, because I had this much trouble with the M4 and he recommended a setup from Enders. And this is what it was. So he had the long suppressor, which is good, I always use that anyway. Short barrel, green laser, slim angled, and the fast mag. Now, I immediately had one issue with this setup. For me personally, if you didn't know, the reload, the basic reload of this weapon is already insanely fast, comparably at least. So I don't really feel need to use the fast mag, so I turned back on that. And then the short barrel improves hipfire, of course, for 5 points, but it also reduces muzzle velocity by quite a lot actually. So instead of doing this to improve the hipfire, I went back to the basic barrel and then upgraded the laser, which ends up on the same hipfire as before, but without the velocity nerf. And this, well, this already works pretty well, but as you saw on my final setup, this is still the green laser, this is still the basic barrel, but I switched to the full angled grip instead of the slim angled for a bit more recoil control. It's not a lot, as you can see, it doesn't even reduce the number, but it's somewhere in the lower decimal points there. But it helps. Obviously, if you do care about the accuracy, you could switch this to the blue laser and this to the slim angled, which doesn't have the, at the cost of blah, 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 it doesn't have the downside. So now you have no accuracy downside, still pretty nice hipfire, and a bit less recoil control, which still works out somewhat. That being said, me personally, I preferred it this way, and with this setup you get insane ADS time, which you kind of need, because if you run into someone, this is still a P shooter, comparably. So if you run against an AR player, you have to get more bullets on target in a quicker time, so a fast ADS speed, a good hipfire, and obviously a good sprint recovery are really important for that. And with this setup, that's exactly what you get. You get a very usable hipfire, even at that range. And obviously if you just start with the hipfire and transition into ADS, that's my empty magazine, but this works very well. And with this setup, I personally had a lot of fun. Now, you might notice that I don't have the buffer, because I simply cannot afford it. And technically, if you really want that, you could just use the extended barrel, and then you can also afford the buffer. Obviously, this gets you up to 200 milliseconds, which is still good, don't get me wrong, but I personally did notice the difference between 200 and 167 in certain one-on-ones, getting around corners and stuff, and I don't really need it, the buffer on this weapon, so this works too, it's fine, but this worked better for me, and I think that should be a decent setup for pretty much everyone. Alright, let's move on, not to the M277, but to the GRT, because these three weapons, if you didn't know, the M4A1, GRT-BC and the QBZ all share the exact same damage profile, which might make you ask, why are they then the three different weapons? Well, because, as you can see here, they obviously shoot at different fire rates, so you end up with a different result, but to counterbalance that, the GRT is more precise and has better recoil and also mobility, but you lose on, well, some other ends. One end of that is because of the short grip, whatever you call that, attach point, you don't have any angled grips. That's kind of annoying because, as you can see, there is not really, those 25 options are simply not available. 25 point option, I guess this one, but that's not what I want. So you kind of have to work around it. And as you can see, this is still light barrel and violet laser, buffer, just the basic stuff. This is essentially still the full accuracy build from before. And why didn't I change it? Well, still ignore my awful aim. It's almost 1 AM and I'm recording this without having warmed up. But if it doesn't come across, this thing is really fucking accurate and super easy to handle. And if I didn't have to reload there, that would be a... There you go. Again, I'm not warmed up, but you saw. It works. It simply works. And that's kind of the only thing you can do with this gun, in my opinion. It's not really... It doesn't lean well into the hipfire build because you don't have the angled grips. And yeah, honestly, I don't know what else to do with this thing. It's basically the more precise, easier to use brother of the M4A1. So if that sounds like something you could use or you could want, there you go. If it doesn't and you feel perfectly capable or you like the M4A1 more, in my opinion, there's absolutely no reason to use the GRT. Yeah, but I guess that's fine. Who cares, honestly. Now next up, the QBZ, still the same damage model, but, and this is where this thing deviates, it has access to synthetic tip ammo. And not only is this the only one of the three that has this ammo has also been buffed. Basically, well, obviously the headshot multipliers got increased, but also because of the changes to the damage model, the synthetic tip ammo has also benefited from that. So now one headshot, except for the first 9.5 meters, actually reduces your BTK by 1. So in any range, except, well, essentially this one, it's usually a 5-shot. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4. And obviously, it should be relatively easy to pull off for even average players to hit 1 headshot in an encounter. It's not 2, it's not 3 like on many other weapons, it's just 1. And especially if you think about from this distance all the way back there and even further, just 1 headshot. That's usually a 6 kill range, so that's 5. 1 headshot reduces it. That's something the other two weapons with this damage model simply cannot pull off, and it kind of counterbalances the lower fire rate of this thing. But obviously there are other issues of this weapon. First off, we don't have a long suppressor for, I don't know, whatever reason. It's just, yeah, there you go. And we also don't have a buffer for another, I assume, very good reason. But we did get the cryo barrel now, which is very nice. And it definitely noticeably helps. But the other issue is you do kind of need the alloy grip, at least in my understanding of the recoil of this thing, if you go without one. I mean, this looks fine, but yeah, you still want to be able to full auto that target, and without a grip it's a bit... I mean, I'm getting slightly warmed up now, so this is likely counterbalancing the point I'm making, but it's a bit too jumpy, and I prefer it with the alloy, which just keeps it in line a bit. Yeah, that was a pretty clear example. It just works better, let's put it that way. Now I saw other people recommending the extended barrel and then putting the violet laser and this to a slim angled. Also perfectly fine. I just personally, I did try this setup, but this worked better for me, so I'm recommending this one. And if I had any wishes I could utter for this weapon, please add the rest of the suppressors and well, all the other stuff that's missing. Obviously, this is a pretty short list. It could very, very heavily use the buffer. I think it would be very, very noticeable on this weapon. And synthetic tip ammo. Why is it 25 and not 20 points? Please, just guys, make it 5 points cheaper. Just 5 points, and add the buffer. That's the 5 points I want, and then I can use the buffer, and I would be happy. But so yeah, that's it. So M4A1, absolute shredder, more leaning into hipfire. GRT, very accurate, can be used well in mid-range, but if you like the M4A1 more, it's kind of no point in using it. And also ARs are still better in mid-range, at least a few of them, so why use this? Yeah. And the QBZ, if you can pull off one headshot past 9 meters, this has a reduced time to kill than it usually would have, which I would argue is very easy to do, so worth a shot. The only problem is if you haven't leveled this so far, obviously. Synthetic tip is usually something you unlock at level 38 or even later, which is absolutely fucking deranged that they put it that far back, but they always do it. So you suffer through 30, almost 40 levels of absolute mediocrity. Then you get this ammo type, then you can use it how I would recommend it, and it might be fun at that point, but would I really want you to go through those 35 levels of suffering? Yeah, not really. So if you have it leveled, try it setup. It's fun. If you don't, I don't know what to tell you. If you want to suffer through this progression slop, go for it. But don't blame me if this weapon doesn't end up fulfilling your expectations in the end. Okay, finally moving on. M277. This... how do I put it? It's... I have a German saying in my head. I'm trying to figure out. It's a side with two coins. It's a coin with two sides. So basically, it's one of the biggest losers of the gunplay changes because of the limp modifiers. But it's also one of the biggest winners in this category. Now let me explain why. This weapon is very unique because it carries 26 damage, which is a 4-shot kill, obviously. For 75 meters, the damage doesn't drop. So that target, if I hit, that's a headshot, is already fucked. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the same for that one. So 4 shots even on that little target, and the damage doesn't drop. Now with limp modifiers, yeah, and we're at 5. So the limp modifiers kind of make the special feature of this thing redundant, which means on this weapon it's even more important than on any other weapon to really hit only the chest, because otherwise you're not making use of the single amazing feature of this thing, and then why are you using it in the first place? And that was the thought process behind this build. Long suppressor, heavy extended, I got to that again in a second, and the 45 point stubby grip to get the ADS speed down to comfortable and nice levels, and obviously because it has the biggest recoil reduction. And then you can afford nothing else, which is a bit sad, but that's how it is. And just like the QBZ, this is a weapon that could really benefit from a buffer, but I think they didn't add it on this weapon specifically because it would be too strong. Just my assumption. So why heavy extended? Well, you could use basic, and then you didn't really need the ADS reduction, so you could use disc grip, and then you have 10 points for something else, which would be nice. Obviously you can spend those. But personally, I think that the improves accuracy during sustained fire. If you use a recoil grip that allows you to still hit chest hits at 50 meters, you then kind of want the accuracy to also have your bullets land there. So you do need some kind of accuracy attachment, and I think the heavy extended or cryo is the better option. Now, why not cryo? Well, simply because it costs 70 points. So if I take this now, we're basically at the same recoil level, at the same accuracy level, but with the lower velocity. So why wouldn't I use this? Same accuracy benefit, but with the velocity increase. And then I just take this grip and I'm back at the same ADS speed. It's just a net benefit compared to the cryo barrel. So now we have a weapon, pretty high velocity, good ADS speed. I mean, the reload is fine, it's not great, it's fine. 20 rounds, basic ammo. And then you can really control this thing. Obviously I'm still... Wait, yeah, it's top right. Sorry, I pulled in the wrong direction. Yeah, there we go. That's better. And then you can really... Yeah, that's... yeah, yep. And if my magazine wasn't empty there, that would have been a full auto spray at 75 meters. And it works. I tried other setups with a lot more different attachments, but this is basically as simple as it gets, and it does fulfill exactly what this weapon is designed for. If you don't do the chest hits, any AR is basically better, in my opinion. So you have to hit those to make use of the 75 meter no damage drop, and that kind of forces you into this, at least in my opinion. Maybe use something else. If that works for you, great. This was best for me, and I think it makes sense for this weapon. In this setup, still a very fun choice, but you do have to have good aim and good recoil control, even with this grip. So it's kind of a skill weapon, different than the M4A1, which is just spray and pray. This requires a bit more input, let's say. Alrighty, let's get to the other end of the skill gap. The AK-205, which by the way still has the broken, let me just show you, still a broken magazine model, which never changes, and this is actually the 41 one, so this would be this one, and these are all gone for some reason, as well as this, and this, and this. Who knows why I reported this, I don't know, a month back, it's still broken. Anyway, so long suppressor. This recently got the cryo barrel as well, which is a very nice addition because it is an absolute pea shooter, so the cryo barrel is much more useful than light barrel. A very nice addition, very helpful. Violet laser for even more accuracy. Synthetic tip ammo this is a must. If you use this weapon without synthetic tip ammo, don't even write a comment, please. And the buffer, why no grip? You don't need one, it's 200 millisecond ADS speed, and then you can just bloop, bloop, bloop. I'm barely pulling down on my mouse, by the way. This is absolutely piss pot easy. And yeah, by the way, this is just like the QBZ, the synthetic tip ammo BTK reduction was also passively improved by the damage number changes, so it's also better on this weapon now. And if you think that sounds great, and the cryo barrel and the buffer, I have to try the AK-205 again. Sounds awesome. Yeah, yeah. Oh, let's just move on. SG-553. One of the most discussed weapons, I think. Everyone tells me this is the meta, this is the unbeatable king of close range, and yeah, I guess. I might be contrary to the mainstream opinion here, but I'm just not vibing with it. I don't know why. I think it looks kind of boring, it sounds kind of boring. I mean, I know I'm using the suppressor. Still, other weapons sound cool even with a suppressor. I don't think this thing does. Yeah. It's objectively good, don't get me wrong. Obviously it has the 3-shot range, it's still pretty controllable down to those, I think that's 35 meters. Beyond that, yeah, if you want to, let's say. But this right here, 1, 2, 3, that's what you're buying. That's the important part, and being easily to handle at these ranges is the addition. So, what am I using? This might look familiar because it's essentially the same thing I used on the M4A1. For basically the same reasons, but with a different damage profile. It's still full angled, it's still the green laser, and on this one I actually did the extended barrel and buffer because I do notice the difference between having a buffer and no buffer on this weapon more than the M4A1. And because this kills in 3 shots, even with good hipfire, you don't quite need the 167 millisecond ADS time, simply because this weapon is more clutch in those close range situations than the M4A1. So it works here. Also having a bit more velocity is kind of nice for the mid-range where you try to hit someone. It's a great weapon. It's really strong in close range. It doesn't fit me, but it should objectively be a recommendation, of course. Now, one more word before we move on to the next one. This is one of the carbines that has access to the new subsonic ammo and even the subsonic hollow point ammo, which basically combines these two, obviously. Now, subsonic ammo massively, well, that's basically a 50% reduction right here, massively reduces your bullet velocity, which might sound bad at first, and it is. It's really bad. So you might be wondering, what do you get in return? Is it like 2042, where the bullet tracers disappear and you are invisible on the minimap? No. The tracers are still there, which is one of the biggest issues in my opinion. And at least that's with a suppressor right now. With a suppressor, which is usually 21 meters, if you use subsonic in combination, you get down to 9 meter minimap spotting range. That is nice, but, and that's a big but, this velocity, I won't show you on the firing range because it's useless on static targets. My problem is with limb modifiers, if you aim for the chest and you have a velocity that's so low that even at 20, 30, 40 and of course 50 meters and more, you basically aim for the chest and it takes your bullet so long to get to your target that you hit the arm, which is a limb modifier. So you kind of have to aim for the right arm to hit the chest, but maybe he is already moving back and then you hit the right arm instead of the... It fucks you over. Simply said, it fucks you over. I tried it on the weapons where it's available, on the carbines I mean. I will get to the SMGs in the next video of course, but on the carbines I was not enjoying it at all. And even though you kind of imagine that the 9 meter range sometimes saves you, but the amount of one-on-ones you lose because of the velocity, it's just not worth it, at least from my point of view, so I'm not using it. And this thing is so strong in close range, you don't mind if someone pushes you. You have 30 rounds, you have a free shot range, it fucking slaps them out of the way anyway. Especially if the bullets get fast to their target and actually hit the chest. Now, let's move from here to the M417 because it's also a free shot weapon. And if you didn't know, the M417 has the same damage model as the NVO assault rifle. And not only the same damage model, it also has, as you can see, the exact same rate of fire. So these are basically clones of each other, with the main difference being the NVO having a 30 round mag. I mean, this is misleading because this doesn't have the extended barrel and I do have it here, but usually carbines have lower velocity and smaller magazines. Also the hipfire is better and they are harder to control, my bad. So, a carbine, more mobile, better hipfire, worse velocity, and in this case a smaller magazine. Everything else is exactly the same. So, obviously my first intention was building it the same way as the NVO because of those same starting stats basically. But then I immediately asked myself, well, why would I not use the NVO? Because I get the same thing but with 30 rounds. So what's the point? And because of that, I decided to lean into a different thing with this weapon, because otherwise it would just be pointless. So I tried to build it more into what a carbine is already good at, and it works really well. And as you can see, it resembles a few of the other builds, but without the disregard for accuracy, because this thing is really good at mid-range too. So instead of the 20 green and the full angled, on this one I actually used the slim angled and the blue laser. Everything else is still long suppressor, extended buffer, you know the drill. So, still, as you can see, very good hipfire, very clutch in buildings and around corners. And then, yup, let's try the furthest one. Yeah, it just works. And different to the NVO, you get smaller magazines, but you can handle close range even better because of the hipfire. And if you do want to compete with a guy at this range, well, that which is unfortunate, it's the showcasing syndrome. Yeah, but usually in gameplay you can. There you go. That's better. Alright, so, I mean, if you don't care for the accuracy, you can use the same setup I used on the other guns. Disregard the accuracy, have a bit more recoil control, even better hipfire. Obviously this also works for different reasons, but yeah. I think this thing profits from having that added accuracy and being able to reach out a bit more. It's still really fun. The small mag and the reload is slightly annoying, but still fine. Yeah, easy recommendation. I don't think you have to unlock a whole lot to make this fun, but it kind of falls on a table and a few discussions. So if you haven't tried it, give it a go. It's not bad. And last and least, the SOR 300 SC. If you watched any of the older videos where I talked about this, I was using a basically strafe speed build, and as you can see I still am, and I explain why. So just to showcase this, if you walk left to right, usually when you aim you become a lot slower. With this setup, you don't. This might sound completely meaningless, but it's actually another fun effect of this patch, because before this just means enemies had more trouble following you during a gunfight, horizontal movements with the mouse. But now it also means if they even manage to follow you, it's more likely that they will hit your arm than your torso. So you are actually benefiting from a strafe speed which leads to longer time to kills because the enemy can't hit center shots as reliably. And you really need this on this weapon because with that fire rate and the damage model it has, you're not winning one-on-ones unless you're moving like a hockey puck. And so the rest of this kind of builds onto that. Violet Laser, Cryo Barrel, which is also new, we only had the light one before. They don't really feel that different because this weapon is very accurate anyway, but it's just on top. Slim hand stop because you don't need any recoil reduction and this reduces the ADS speed. And yeah, let's talk about that for a second. 133 milliseconds is absolutely nuts. But again, it's another point on the line of this weapon cannot win a one-on-one on equal terms. So you have to shift the balance into your favor. And one point of that is the strafe speed. And the other point is that you can just start hitting aimed shots way faster than your enemy, and then you might win. That's what this entire thing is about. And then the small mag and the lightweight ammo to get this maximum strafe speed and also the ADS speed. And now 20 rounds might sound too little, but actually yeah, it's enough for 4 targets. Obviously these are standing, I know, but this is not a big flanking weapon. It simply isn't. It's too weak for that. It's kind of a gimmick gun and you have to treat it that way. So after 1 or 2 targets I would reload anyway. So 20 rounds are fine. And they help with the strafe speed, which increases your likelihood of surviving the one-on-one in the first place. So it's kind of necessary. I personally haven't found any other way to make this gun work. And even this setup is, let's say, experimental. But it kind of makes it work. But again, if you haven't leveled this thing and you don't have any of these attachments, I wouldn't recommend starting now. I just wouldn't. This gun is not great. And this entire setup kind of brings it up to par in a very special way. But in the end, ultimately, it's still not good. So, yeah, it is what it is. Alright, closing thoughts. M4A1, not as great as before, in my opinion. But with this setup, still fun. You just have to consider not shooting at anything further away than 40 meters. Which, if you do that and just move closer, then you can smash them again. GRT is still kind of pointless, but not bad. QBZ even better than ever before. Cryo Barrel, better headshots, less annoying recoil, but annoying to unlock. So if you don't have it already, sucks to be you. M277, biggest winner and biggest loser in different ways. I still enjoy it, but it's too annoying to make it work reliably for a long period of time. At least for me, I don't know, after 2 or 3 games I just like to use something that's it just does the job and I don't have to be as conscious about it. AK-205 I still think is complete. Yeah. SG5F3, very strong weapon. I'm just not vibing with it. This setup works pretty well though, and yeah, if you use this, you should win every one-on-one inside a building, if your aim is on the same level as your enemy, of course. M417, kind of forgotten about, but still pretty fun. Different setup than I used before, more into the hip fire, more into the lower mid-range, but still clutch up close. Yeah, it's fun, it works, Still, I would rather use the NVO or AK4D. Just a bit more punch, you know? It's just my thing. And the SOR is still... Yeah, what's the saying in English? The runt of the litter? The litter of the runt? No, what's the word? You know what I mean. The weakling of the bunch. It's there, it exists, it's not horrible, it's not great. If you don't have anything unlocked on it, just don't. Just leave it. You're not missing out on anything. Yeah. Overall, I think the ARs are noticeably stronger now than the carbines. On the general level. And I guess that's just what happens with open weapons. Nothing you can really do about it. I guess if you love hipfire, the carbines are objectively better than assault rifles. But I don't, so yeah. And in the next episode, we're going to talk about the SMGs, which so far have been more fun than the carbines, for me at least. And so far I'm up to the MP7, so I've still got a few to go through in the next coming days. But what I'm noticing, and you might be seeing it already, these things so far don't need any grip. And you know that I like to put grips on things where most people say you don't need a grip, and I'm still lazy, so I do use one, but these are at a level where even I'm saying, yeah, no, that's just a waste of points. So it's fun, it offers a lot more flexibility on other ends, which we will talk about, and I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not looking forward to using that piece of shit, but that's tomorrow, so yay, great weekend. But yeah, that's it. If you want to give me some loadouts for the SMGs in the comments, so I can try some weird stuff, maybe put some funny shit in there if you have it. Yeah, and I'll be looking forward to seeing them, trying them, and then talking about them in the next video. Thanks for watching, and that's it for today. I will see you on the battlefield. Sorrow out.